All right, everybody, we got approximately about 3 minutes. Nice thumb. At least we could tell it was a thumb. All right, good evening, everybody. It's 7:31. We're going to get started. So if everybody will stand and face the flag, we'll say the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Let's I'm gonna go real quick around to new members. Anybody new members in the house tonight? Stand up real quick and introduce yourselves. I think I can get back there with the microphones so everybody can hear you.
David Porter. I passed my technician test last month, and it was quite a journey. And I keep telling people, my dad back in the day was he was doing the continuous wave. What was that? The novice, whatever. Yeah, so we got ham in the family. So I'm KQ4 VDG, and I live down in South Orange County.
Welcome. Take a real quick second and introduce yourself.
Hi, my as Patassi. I've been a member with a club down in South Florida, the Boca Raton Amateur Radio Association. I moved up here about 3 months ago, and I've been to Hamcation several times. So I've probably seen many of you at Hamcation. So I've been licensed for 5 years. So that's
welcome. Anybody else? Sign them up. Sign them up for Hamcation. All right. Bob, test session.
Going it up unless Aaron.
Oh, Aaron's here. I forget Aaron's here.
Yeah, we had 5 tonight and 4 passed. So we've got two new licenses and 2 upgrades.
Excellent. And if you're in the audience, welcome, welcome. All right, couple of updates real quick. I was hoping tonight we'll give you a real happy, exciting rundown of what happened with our ARIS meetings that we're gonna have with the kids this past week. Except there was a hurricane that decided to make a visit, and not so happy ending there. So all the two sessions that we had with them in September have been canceled. We were not going to make them up. We're just going to start up in October, toward the end of October. I'll get another email here this weekend in reference to the dates and stuff and when it's going to be. If you've signed up, I hope that if you've signed up to volunteer to help do this, you've also signed up with the school board so they can do the background checks. That's a requirement. I get a list. I have to let them know of the names on the list who are all members of our organization. If you're not on that list by the day of the contact, then unfortunately you can't go on school property. Not my rules. That is county rules. Sorry, Zoom communication hotline calling. What we're going to end up doing is in October, we're going to start where we were going to start in September. It's going to just shorten up the sessions that we have. There is plans on October or November. We're going to have our 2 sessions, and then again in the Friday after our 2 sessions, Nicole, the astronaut, will be coming to visit the school. Please keep her in your thoughts and prayers right now because her house and stuff was flooded over on the west coast of Florida during the past hurricane event. So just like a lot of people right now dealing with flood issues and repairs and drying things out, and it's a mess. So just keep them in your thoughts and prayers also. But anyways, also wanted to make an announcement that the board of directors of OARC just made a decision at the last month's board meeting that starting in 2025, how many of you guys have heard of the ARRL Teachers Institute? Okay. It's an opportunity for teachers around the country to go to ARRL up in Connecticut for 5 days of teaching them what amateur radio is, all the ins and outs, how to solder, how to make contacts, all the types of stuff. They don't have to be an amateur licensed amateur radio operator. They get to go up there. They just have to register. That registration fee is $100 per teacher. And then they have grants. Data Rel has grants that can help pay for the travel, the hotel, food, that type of stuff. So what the board of directors decided to do last month, made a decision that coming up in 2025, they're supposed to expand that program. I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not. Probably shouldn't say this because I don't know if it's going to happen. But other than that, they are going to expand it, but they're going to do it 26 times next year, one every other week. Okay. There's also talk about moving it around the country, meaning that they're going to be just not in Connecticut. They'll go to a large area and people go to that area, can go to those sessions, make it much easier to get to them. But anyways, the club board of directors decided that we will pay for up to 5 teachers to go to these the institute. Okay, we'll pay the registration fee, the $100 registration fee, and if AWL helps subsidize the other costs and stuff, it's great. We can, the club or the board of directors will take on a case-by-case basis if there's anything else that we can do to help get teachers to go. We've already talked to the teacher that we are working closely with at Sally Ride. She's highly interested in going. She'll probably want to go. She says that she'll probably want to go to the summer sessions that they have, or one of the summer sessions, because obviously it's easier for her to go. And she's looking to, for another teacher to go with her and stuff there at the school and stuff. So that's some exciting news. OARC is still giving back and also helping get teachers more involved so we can get more youth involved in amateur radio. So hopefully everybody was glad to hear about that as I was, making a suggestion to the board. So, real quick, Christmas party, sales were great last month. I think we had it 68, as of last month. This month or maybe surpass that by now, I'm sure. 82. So, if again, that's going to be the first Saturday of December at the normal place we've had in the past, which is the Knights of Columbus over off of Cimarron. Doors open at 6, dinner is at 7. We do our award ceremony. We do ask that if you can, possibly please bring a small unwrapped toy for Toys for Tots. We also sit there and collect toys for Toys for Tots. In the past, we've always collected like over 2 big boxes full of toys. I mean, we're talking the Toys for Tots boxes, and all that sent to the Toys for Tots. Obviously we do our award ceremony, and we're looking for desserts. If you have a favorite dessert that you like to bring that night, it's great. Please coordinate that with Christy. You can send it to, I think it's Christmas party at OARC.org or to C Moore. That's the letter C MOORE at OARC.org. And it goes to Christy, and she just wants to help coordinate that. So that way it's not all apple pies. We may have some other things involved and stuff. So, it'll be a good event as always. If you haven't been to the Christmas party, I highly suggest you take time to come to it. It's a good time for everybody that night. There's door prizes, there's awards, there's all types of stuff going on. So doors open at 6, dinner served at 7. It's going to be 2 J's. It's going to be like we've had in the past. It's going to be kind of like the traditional Christmas dinner with all the fixings and stuff to go with it. And it's usually really a lot of good food plus dessert afterwards. So, all right. Upcoming meeting updates. Last month, I kind of mentioned how the calendar falls this year is kind of messes up our meeting times. In December, obviously, we will not have a meeting, okay? Because we never normally have a meeting in December anyways. Although we are going to have a test session still available the normal first Wednesday of December, be right here in the other room from 5:30 until whenever it gets done. So if you still are trying to upgrade license or know somebody that still wants to get their license, there's still an opportunity in December. January, we will have a meeting, but it will not be on the first Wednesday of the month, which is who happens to be New Year's Day. I'm sure that many of you guys, myself included, have other things more important to do, like watch football. Okay. Or you're going to have family over. Maybe you might have partied too much the night before and stuff. So we won't have a meeting on the first Wednesday of the month. We will have a meeting on the second Wednesday, January the 8th, which is going to be here in this room. The test session that night will actually be in the craft room because there is something already planned in this room. So if there's one night that you guys normally would not come early, would be January meeting, because there's something in this room until 5 o'clock. They got to flip it for our meeting. So we won't be able to even get in this room until probably 6:30-ish. Okay. But the test session will be in the craft room on the other side, on this floor, the other side of the building. And if you're coming in for that test session, we'll make sure that people will direct you the right way. February, we don't have a meeting. Okay. Again, because it falls first Wednesday is the week that we're setting up for Hamcation at the fairgrounds. And we are going to have a kit party or kit building party, if you will, at the fairgrounds with Joe Eisenberg. Once we get all those details of what the kit is and everything, we'll get it out to everybody. You can sign up for it. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you just want to come and watch and see what it is, you can do that too. Okay. You don't have to sign up to build a kit. If you just want to come and see what's going on. Joe always has great kits. So there's always usually some extra room. So please, plan on coming out for that. Then starting in March, we should be back to our normal schedule throughout the rest of the year of our first Wednesdays of the month here. The July meeting falls actually, I think it's on July the 2nd instead of July the 3rd. So we don't interfere with Red Hot and Boom this year. So everything should be back to normal coming in March. Any questions so far up to this point? Does anybody have? It'll be all be in the newsletter. And the January information, the December test session, January information, I only found out 4 hours ago. Okay. So I had to come here to actually get it nailed down. So, all right. So, again, in March, it should be, back to normal. Now, coming up on Saturday, November the 2nd, at the Bahia Shrine Center over at East Highway 436 in Apopka is going to be the Shriners Tailgate, weather permitting. As always, they say weather permitting. It's November, it's Florida, you know, you never know. All right. Sorry. Rain or shine. There you go. Is Saturday, November the 2nd. The admission is $5. If you're going to sell from your trunk, it's $7. I have a flyer here. It's going to go on our Facebook page. Plus, we'll have this in the newsletter next month. And there's some more over there already tonight. So if you're interested, it's a great little tailgate. Come out and support them. It helps the Shriners Ham Radio Club and keeps them going. Michael, you got the hamcation updates? Oh.
Hamcation. Actually, this coming Saturday is our next hamcation meeting, or committee meeting. So we've been hard at work. We're still taking sales in pretty good so far. So everything's good there. I do know I am still in need of volunteers, lots of volunteers this year. So please, if you have not volunteered and you can, please go on the website and sign up. It is live. I do know tickets need lots of volunteers. Security needs lots of volunteers. Prize and info booth. So hospitality still probably needs some volunteers. Those are probably the bigger ones that need them the most right now. So please go sign up. I do have a couple positions available on the committee. One, I am still in need of an IT chairman. I need some assistant chairman for logistics, publications, talk-in, tailgate, IT. So if you're interested in any of those positions, please see me during the break. I can explain more what they are and what is involved in it. Just remember also, if you do volunteer, you get a free ticket to Hamcation. We start setting up at the fairgrounds on Monday. Actually, we start on Sunday loading the trucks, then at the fairgrounds on Monday. So you can volunteer any day out of the week from Sunday until Sunday. So if you want to volunteer Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and still enjoy the show, you can do that and get in for free. That's all I have.
All right. Now, if you're also interested in some of the volunteer positions, if you go to the website under the volunteer page, there are actually links to the descriptions of kind of what is involved in that, in those positions. So like obviously logistics, you're going to be lifting something. So if you're unable to lift something, we highly recommend don't volunteer for logistics. If you need something more that maybe you need to sit more, tickets, golf carts, security probably put you at a door with a chair, that type of stuff. There's places for everybody. Okay. I obviously just want to make sure that you volunteer for the right position for you. All right. Let me go around to the board members real quick. And if they have no announcements, we're going to take our quick break. When we come back, we'll go into our presentation, and Ed will sit there and introduce that person for you in a few minutes. Michael, did you have anything else? Anna's not here tonight. Bobbin? Okay. Bob C? Ed? James? Christy? Frank T? Oh, man, that's great. I got one other thing. I didn't ask the membership chairman yet. I got one thing before we do go to a break. If you probably notice, there are some little objects flying around your head. Okay. Apologize for that. The center's not sure exactly where they came from. All of a sudden, they appeared here one day this past week. They have a work order in for exterminating. They haven't been out here yet. I know one of them was pretty big. That when it flew past me, I thought it was an Airbus A380 and stuff. It was pretty darn big. So yeah, I feel them going around me. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of individuals in the back behind the donuts. When you walk up, we'll open the donut thing and we're going to close it once you pull your donut out. Okay. To prevent these flies from getting any bigger, because obviously they've been fed well somewhere. They're big. Okay. So I know James tried to knock some out. He got quite a few, but there's a lot more still flying around. So while they're setting up, did you have something? Membership cards. If you signed up recently or you renewed recently, not in the past 6 months to a year, even in the past 30 days, not including today, please go and see if your membership card is there and grab it. Because what we're going to start doing is start tossing ones that are going to expire in the next 2 to 3 months, because you're going to get a new one anyways and stuff. But we like to get these out. So please make sure that you get a chance to go up there. Plus any name tags that we've gotten so far. If you ordered a name tag in the past 2 months, we have not gotten them yet. No, we've gotten them this past year. I'm talking, we have gotten them here. So we have name tags up there. The idea with the name tags, so everybody understands, what we do is we wait a couple months so we get several of them done. So shipping is much cheaper, and less on the person that has to make them for us. He does them all in one shot, sends them. We're good for a couple months, and then we send a whole batch of another ones to do. So that's why we don't do them. It's not like you order this month to get next month. That is not always the case. If you happen to be on the tail end of when we put the order in, you'll get it next month. But we'll be placed on. Yeah, we still got to place the order for previous month or two. So we'll get those in. But please go up there and check and see if you have those. And then when we come back from break, we'll come back at 8:05 tonight. It's going to be Mitch Stern with Techniques of Best Operators, and you have a full bio for you. And that is it. We are ready. Our volunteers are lined up to keep the flies out of the donuts. So please go right ahead. And if one of them starts fighting you for the donut, just give them the donut. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there are still donuts back here. We won't take pictures and tell your spouses if you grab two. All right, 2 minutes, folks, 2 minutes. All right, folks, 1 minute, we're going to get started. Uno momento. All right, everybody, if you'll make your way back to your seats, grab a cup of coffee, bottle of water, another donut. Come on back to your seats. Have another donut. I guess some of them are bagged. All right, folks, we're going to get started. If everybody will have a seat, please. Please, please, please. So just real quick, a huge thank you to our volunteers back there who now have acquired a new name, the Fly Patrol, to keeping our donuts fly free. All right, Mr. Ed, you about ready?
Okay, I see you all back to your seats now. Thank you very much. This evening, Mitch Stern, W1SJ, he's been an AM radio operator for 55 years, and he's been active all those years. I've been active, I think, almost that long, but I had a break for about 20 years, so maybe it didn't count. He's very active contester, and he's usually that first Vermont station you work. With 7,000 to 10,000 QSOs logged each year, he's worked a few over the years and has some experience about what he's going to talk to us about tonight. And I worked him in some of those contests in 2014, 16, and 22. So I was surprised when I sent a request for Mitch to join us that I had him in my logbook. In addition, Mitch is also active in training new hams with over 1,500 newly licensed hams. He claims to do this so he can have more people to work. Mitch is also involved in public service events, including the large events like the New York City and Boston marathons, where he put operating skills to the test in real life events. So please pay attention as Mitch presents techniques of the best operators. Thank you, Mitch.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me and see me okay?
Yes.
Great. So let's imagine you're coming home from hamcation. You all go to there, right? And you just purchased this really great radio and a really nice antenna as well. And you put this up and you hear this nice juicy DX station come on the air, and you give them a call. And the DX station doesn't come back to you, but instead goes back to your buddy across town who's using, well, an old buzzard radio and a dipole that's precariously hanging out of a tree, barely in the air. And he just kicked your butt. And you got all that new stuff. What's the difference? Did he have better equipment? Probably not. Probably maybe because he knows how to operate better. He knows how to time his call. And those are some of the things we're going to look at. It's not always the guys with the biggest stations that do well. Sometimes it's the guys who know what to do as opposed to writing the big paychecks. So the first question I'll ask you is, what is the most important thing to be a good operator? Anyone?
Listen.
No, that's not it. Any other ideas?
Somebody said assistance or patience.
No, that's not it either. Okay, so you guys can see the screen, right? Turn the radio on. You don't make any contacts unless the radio is turned on, right? How many of you guys have worked DXCC with your radio turned off? Pretty neat trip. Can you guys see the share screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, you got to turn the radio on. That's important. Lose the cell phone. Don't take a cell phone call during a QSO. It's rude. It's kind of like taking a call when you're with somebody in person. So we're going to go over some of the things, and really, I'm not going to talk about anything really that earth-shattering. And people will then say to me, well, what makes you such an expert? What do you know? What do you know? It's like, well, like the man said, I do about 7,000 to 10,000 QSOs a year. And I don't know, about a 500,000 Qs in Logbook of the World, something like that. So I've worked a few people and I kind of know what works and what doesn't work. So some of the techniques to maximize ham radio funds. So these are the basics ones. And somebody said, yes, listening, the number one skill. If you can't hear what the guy's saying, you're not going to have a contact. And then speaking clearly and properly. And that's a big one. That's a big one. A lot of hams mumble. And it ain't a telephone. It's a radio, which means that sometimes you're not going to get perfect speech coming through. And if you're one of those guys that use that mode called CW, you got to key properly, as opposed to the guys who they call me and they send their call sign 3 times, 3 different ways. And I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, what does he mean? Being a master of the frequencies, being on the right frequency at the right time of day. Okay, real important. Setting up a good station. Too many people kind of throw something together and it's just, it just doesn't work that well. Using the right equipment for the job and teaching others to be good operators. That's going to be our final topic. And really, that's really important because we want to make all of us do well. And you keep practicing, practice your art. So let's look at these things in detail. Receiving, listen carefully. The information may be critical. So I use the local repeater. Whenever I'm driving around, I call in there and guy will come back to me and I'll give him my information. They go, what is your call again? What is your name again? And I don't have a lot of patience and I got to go. Something came up and I'll end the queue. So I really don't like that too much. Neither does anyone else. So really pay attention. And use a good speaker or headphones. So when I operate, I always, except if I'm in the car, obviously, because that's a safety issue, I'm always using headphones. Always. It's just, we all don't hear so well when we get older. The headphones really help. Then there's transmitting. So again, you're not giving a speech. You're giving information. So you want to talk in short bursts, just a burst of information, not a monologue. Don't do what they do on 80 meters where they sit back in the easy chair and put their feet up and flip the big switch and talk for the next half hour. That generally is not that good. I mean, it's great if you want to get on 80 meters on AM late at night, but normally not so good. You want to say the important information up front. That's really important. And avoid the side chatter until you establish that they can actually hear you. And again, enunciate, don't mumble. I have a lot of fun giving this talk. I often give this talk in Dayton. And I like making fun of W8s because they kind of all have speech impediments. I mean, and I prove it. I says, guy in Dayton, this is what's that city about an hour south of here? And I go, Cincinnati. No, it's not Cincinnati. It's Cincinnati. That's how it's spelled. It's important because the other guy don't know what you're talking about. So you have to be really clear about it. And when you give your call sign, we do this with our beginner operators at field day. Give the call sign slowly. That is the most important piece of information. Don't try to just rush that through because they'll miss it. On HF, you use phonetics. If you don't use phonetics, don't bother giving your call sign. For instance, when I say W1SJ on HF, I got a 1 in 3 chance of getting it right because an S sounds like an X, sounds like an F. So it's always Whiskey 1 Sierra Juliet or W1 Susan Japan. Or if that doesn't work, I just yell, stupid jerk. And they get that. Think before you speak. Have something to say. If you don't have anything to say, hey, I'm standing by right now. And then information. Particularly if you're doing a public service event, take careful notes while listening because you can't remember everything. I don't remember anything. I got to write everything down. And the other part is you have to write or type legibly. How do you type legibly? Well, anyway, you have to write it down. And I can't read my own handwriting. So this is a problem that I have to work on. I've gotten very good in contest operating. Of course, I log on the computer. And most of the mistakes I make during a contest is not because I hear the call sign wrong, it's I mistype it. So public service events. I usually do this talk in an hour or so. And, I have to cut this down a little bit. I was going to cut this part out, but for crying out loud, you guys just had a hurricane come rumbling through the neighborhood, right? So this is really important. It is really important that every ham radio operator is ready, willing, and able to lend assistance when there is something going on. So, the most important thing, get involved. Do things. don't wait for the emergency to happen. Get involved in the walkathons, runathons, or whatever it is. Get involved in that and learn how to do those things. Learn how to be a communicator. Your number one job is to communicate. So what that means is you talk on the radio. Don't be putting up stanchions or moving water barrels. I tell my guys, you're here to talk to me on the radio. If you can't do that, then go get a different job. And the number one ability is to listen. So I run a marathon here in Vermont, and I tell people, I'm going to have to ask you a question at some point. And when I ask that question, I expect you to hear it, write it down, go get me the answer, and get back to me ASAP, right? Real important, because somebody like the race director is bugging me for that information, and I have to find that out. So that means you have to be listening and be ready to do it. So you have to gather and organize information quickly, which that gets back to taking notes again. You're going to have a lot of names and stuff going on and whatever. And if you have a good head, which I don't have, then you have to write things down. Think before speaking, and keep your transmissions short. I tell people in a public service event that you will be charged $10 per word. So keep it really short, because time is of the essence. You know, if you have a runner go down and blood is spurting out of that runner, you want to get that information passed to net control and then eventually to the ambulance as soon as possible. Always follow the directions of the supervisor, even if he or she is a jerk. A lot of times they are, but you do not get into that discussion. You let them know what they need to know to do their job. And if they are hard to work with, that is a discussion you have with them at the bar over a few beers afterwards, or don't work with them anymore, but don't get into a shouting match. It just makes us look really bad. And you use your tactical call sign wherever applicable. You know, you use tactical call signs. You have to use your regular call sign every 10 minutes as well, but you know, we use that in the marathons. So now equipment. A dead radio is useless. So let me ask you a question here. Of the, I don't know, 25, 30 people, how many of you guys have an HT on you or an HT out in the car that's ready to get on the air and communicate? Somebody tell me, how many people in the room have an HT ready to go?
At least a dozen, maybe 15.
So that's about half the room?
About half the room.
That's pretty darn good, because most times I give this talk, it's usually like less than 20%. Yeah, but you guys get a lot of emergencies and disasters down there. We don't get much here. We just get poor weather all the time. And the dead radio is useless. So it means we had a guy at the New York City Marathon. Oh, my battery just died. He wasn't in the thing more than 10 minutes of battery. I have to get on the train and go home and get another battery. And we said, go ahead, get on the train, go home, and don't come back. We don't need you. We have to replace you. So make sure that your battery is properly charged. Not as big a deal these days with the lithium ion batteries, but they sometimes act up. They sometimes die suddenly. So you want to have extra batteries. In fact, an extra handheld. Murphy's Law happens, right? Learn how to use your equipment. So we had this where we had to change frequencies for some reason. Something bad happened, and half the people did not know how to put a different frequency into their radio. And now I tell them, I says, you have to be able to change your frequency, not have it in memory, but change your frequency. And the biggest pushback I get from W1DEB, who happens to be my wife, I don't have to know this stuff. I says, yes, you do. Because if something happens and we have to go to a frequency that's not in your memory, you got to be ready to do that. Okay, use the highest power and best antenna possible. This isn't a QRP deal here. If it's a 5-watt HT, you run that HT at 5 watts and run a good antenna. And if the rubber duck doesn't work, by God, get something better, because you don't want the net control to hear the scratchy, noisy signal when you're talking about somebody who is severely injured. Keep the HT off your belt. When you put the HT on your belt and you transmit, you basically heat up your kidneys, which not so good from a medical standpoint. It also absorbs your signal so that you're really weak. Do like the cops do, hold the HT right up in front of your face with the antenna up above your head. That is the best thing. Or if you want to do something silly, years and years ago, I had a helmet with a quarter wave whip on top of it. Worked great. Somebody took a picture of me and I looked like a Prussian general. So I don't use the helmet anymore because looking stupid is something I don't want to do. I'm kind of good at that anyway, but I didn't want to do that. Advanced thing, check the coverage before the event. If you're going to be at a particular place, go there and actually make sure you can get into the repeater. You need to use 2 radios, transmit on one, listen on the other, and know where the dead spots are, and don't walk into the dead spots. I mean, it's simple enough. Don't use Vox. I've thrown people out of events who use Vox. So leave the Vox at home. Don't use it because every marching band's going to set your Vox up and just drive everyone nuts. And have the headphones available. Sometimes you don't want to use the headphones. Sometimes you need to. We always have a thing where the ham calls in, oh, there's a band here making too much noise. Can you get them to stop? No, we cannot get the band to stop. You have to deal with that. And it happens every event I do. Somebody's complaining about noise on the course. So one of the things here, the questions you need to ask yourself is this. This is now not radio questions. This is like thinking questions. If you were suddenly called into action, is your equipment ready and the batteries charged? Well, half of you are ready. The other half are not. Something to think about. So I carry my HT in my computer case with me, and my computer case is always with me, right? If power and phone were out for weeks, would you be able to communicate? No more power at your house for weeks and weeks on end. Can you still communicate? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. There's no correct answer for this stuff, by the way. Can the repeater you use stay on for over a week without commercial power? Well, we have backup power at the repeater. The backup power is a battery. And after 24 hours, the battery does what batteries do. It dies, and then the repeater goes away. A perfect example of this was the big Northeast power blackout that hit New York City back in the early 2000s. All the repeaters were on the air and the battery power, and after a day, all those repeaters were off the air, and the only one that was on the air was two or three of them that had full generator backup. Really, really important because while most power outages are only for a few hours, sometimes you get the big one and you're off for days on end. Do you have ways to power your radio and charge batteries without power? So you have no power. Can the battery in the radio ain't going to last that long. Can you, I start up the car and I charge it with that. Well, how are you going to gas up the car? Do you have enough gas to run that car to charge that battery? I don't know. I keep a little extra gas hanging around, but not that much. And then the most important thing, would you be emotionally able to help if the disaster struck your area, i.e. your house directly? Where you go to your house and it's a pile of sticks, which happened to a lot of people in northern Florida. Probably not. That's why they have jump teams come into these areas to be able to do this stuff. So now on another topic completely. So we're not going to talk about public service anymore, but those are the things to think about. Where have all the single sideband QSOs gone? All right, you get on there, you turn across 20 meters, you don't hear anybody on, and then you go to 14074, and there's like 100 people on there. So the digital mode FT8 is over 50% of the activity. That's when I wrote this particular slide probably 2-3 years ago. It's probably more like 75% of activity. And so the great news is it works great in poor conditions. It goes down to minus 24 decibels. The bad news is there's no rag chewing. Well, that may be good news. I don't know. But you only got 13 characters, just enough to give your signal report and a grig, not much else. And it is slow compared to single sideband, if you can hear single sideband. But FT8 or FT4, it's easy to do. All you need is a computer, some software, the cable, radio. That's it, right? You don't even need that much of an antenna. You do have to adjust gains properly, and you have to be on upper sideband, and you have to be able to set your clock reliably. I mean, those are the easy things to do. And it works in semi-automatic mode. You click on a station, FT8 automatically sends a report in sequence. The operator is not needed for most of it. So I operate FT8 when I drive out to Dayton. Right? I turn the thing on when I leave Vermont, drive for 13 hours. The FT8 is just running the whole time. And all I do is like every couple of minutes, I hit the enter key and click the mouse to start a new QSO. I don't even know who I'm working. I don't pay attention to that. I just let it go do its thing and whatever. And my wife says, "What's the point of doing that? You're not talking to these people." I says, "Exactly. I don't want to talk to them. I just want to put them in the log." Okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, I have talked to people mobile on single sideband, you know, and they can barely hear you and whatever. Now, here's the bad news. You get no training from FT8. I mean, basically the computer is doing all the work. I mean, once you set it up, you just sit there and in fact, they have fully automatic mode, WSJTZ, where it just does it and you don't even need to be in the room, which is questionable legality. But is this ham radio? Well, I don't know. You decide. I mean, it has its usage. I use it for certain things. But if you rely on FT8 to get your jollies out of ham radio, it's going to be like a drug that's going to wear off real soon. And if you do that, I strongly urge you to do other things in ham radio as well. And the other thing is learn CW. The best operators can do any mode. It's like what we say in the performance industry, you're a triple threat. You can sing, dance, and act. Well, triple threat in ham radio, you can do sideband, FT8, and CW. So, you know, the so-so operators are only limited to single sideband and digital. If you can do CW, you are a lot more valuable. All right, let me put this back on. Okay, so at some point you guys want to chase DX or Pi, or even want to you want to chase a park activation, and there's a pile up there. How do you break the pile up? And there is a technique for doing this. A lot of people don't realize that. Some people are very good. So the first thing is assess the pile up before calling. Don't just call blindly, because you're likely going to become a nuisance. The first question, particularly with DXpeditions, are they working simplex or split? If you come into a pileup, calling on top of the DX station and not splitting, you're going to have 50 people who hate you instantly, and they're going to say some unkind things to you. And trust me, I've done it enough times. I forget to push the stupid button, whatever, and they yell at me and call me all sorts of names, and you kind of sheepishly push the button. Yeah, okay, I know that. Are they working by call areas or not? Is the operator responding immediately? Some operators are really quick, bang, bang, you know, so call once, don't bother calling multiple times. Important things to know before you actually get into the fray. So the most important parameter is timing your call. We call it call when they ain't. Don't call right away. It's like as soon as the guy says, okay, QRZ, and then everyone, bomb, there's like 500 people calling immediately. Don't do that. Wait for it. Wait, you know, you have to hold yourself back, right? Hold yourself back and let the first calls go through, and then bang, then give it to them. Now, by the way, there's a lot of hams who know to do that too. So that doesn't always work. And so this is what I'll tell you. A properly placed 1 watt signal can beat a poorly placed kilowatt. It happens all the time. And I mean, it happens when I'm working a pileup, and I work a lot of pileups. I'll hear all the guys and they'll be on top of each other. And the first guy I'm going to come back to is the guy who I get the most of their call sign. I'm not going to go back to the loudest one necessarily. Sometimes I go back to the weakest one, but their call sign goes through because they're talking when everyone else has shut up. Perfect. That's the way to do it. And some people are like really afraid of pileups, you know, like if you happen to be in a rare park or something like that and you get a big pileup and people get nervous, And there's a couple of things in a pileup. The first rule is never let them see you sweat. Just relax. No one has ever died by messing up a pileup, at least as far as I know. So I remember I was operating this W1AW Portable 1 from here in Vermont. And I got on, I called W1AW Portable 5. They were in New Mexico right when we crossed over. It was like at OOO Zulu, right? So he was signing off. I came on there. How'd you do? Whatever. And we laughed about it. Okay, fine. I go, W1AW Portable 1. Let's see who's out there. And I heard the sound of like 500 chainsaws all going off simultaneously. And, I was nonplussed by it. I said, all right, who's the W4? Guy said, did you hear W4? I said, no, but I figured there'd have to be one in there, right? And then only like 20 people called, and then boom, I worked them right away. So there are tricks like that. They say, do you do that all the time? I says, sometimes. So when you are giving your call sign, use your entire call sign with the proper phonetics. Don't use a partial. If your call sign is too long, so what are they giving now in 4-line? KQ4 BCE, I think some. I don't like it. It's too long. It says, well, upgrade or, get your general license and get a 1x3, which is a lot shorter. I don't think you can get a 1x2. To get a 1x2, you have to wait for somebody to die, and then it's like a lottery. It's really hard. Get a short call. Don't just give the last 2 letters. That's just going to confuse everybody. And again, give the call sign slowly and with emphasis. Whiskey 1, Sierra, Juliet, really punch it out there. And you may have to say it several times. And don't give descriptors like QRP or mobile or state or whatever. QRP doesn't tell them anything. Who cares, QRP, right? Or mobile. That may make you feel better. It doesn't help you get through. Now, I will give you one exception to giving your state. So in the sweepstakes, we got all the sections that you have to use, and the toughest section for us to work here in the Northeast is Yukon. Yukon or Northwest Territories. They have crappy propagation there, and our propagation isn't much better. So the West Coast are working in with impunity, and we get the crumbs over here. So they have a big pileup, and I try to break through. And so what I just keep yelling, Vermont, Vermont, Vermont. And you have to get out of the seat and jump up and down while doing this. Don't ask me why, but you do that. Vermont, Vermont. And you throw your hands up in the air too. That seems to work. And then VY1JA says, wait a minute. Did I hear Vermont? I go, yeah, you certainly did. And I work them. And you hear this low growl from like 100 guys who I just beat. All right. Because I know that he needs Vermont just as bad as I need Yukon. So that's the trick. Now, trust me, this doesn't work if you yell New Jersey, or even Florida. It doesn't work because they're pretty easy to work. So sometimes it works if used properly. So you got to listen. Don't call if you cannot hear the DX station. A lot of times the DX station's on. I hear everyone calling them. I can't hear them. It pisses me off, but there's nothing you can do. I mean, that's the way it goes. I just don't have the propagation. It's silly for me to call them and then wait for somebody to give me a relay. So if you can't hear them, you don't know if they're calling you. Forget it. And also, behave yourself. Don't call out of turn or tail end. Tail end is you go at the end of the queue. So first of all, if somebody does that when I'm running a pileup, I ignore them. And when we did W1AW, I was the organizer that I told the operators, I said, if people misbehave, do not work them. Or if they are really a real pain, I give them a report, but I blacklist them, which is really insidious. It means that, yeah, here's your report, but you ain't going in the log. Don't do that. Don't annoy the guy. He's trying to work people as fast as possible. So, I mean, you can respond if, like the call letter is 1 letter off or something like that. But if the guy goes back to W6ACH and you have a KQ4 call sign, there's no match there. Don't do that. It's just going to slow everybody up. So pick your battles wisely. So you get on the start of like the CQ Worldwide. CQ Worldwide is about 3 weeks, the last weekend of October. at the start, you're going up against the kilowatts, and unless you have a big station with a big antenna, you're just going to get bounced out of town. Don't even bother. Wait till later. In fact, wait till Sunday, because on Sunday, the big boys are begging for contacts. They would be all too glad to give you a contact. So that's what you do then. And pick the bands and times with the best propagation. You know, it's like if the propagation ain't there, they're not going to hear you. But so pick your battles wisely, as they say. And working scatter, working somebody who's close in, that's for the big boys. You know, low power and small antenna doesn't work as well. So attitude is really important. If you don't succeed, try again. I mean, I have a Yagi here at 50 feet and a kilowatt and all that. And it's sometimes taking me hours to break a pileup for a rare DX station. And if you have to have persistence, you know, yeah, I'm not getting through. I give up for a while, try it again. If you get frustrated, turn the radio off and go for a walk. Don't get mad and start throwing carriers on people or calling people names. And, you know, it's just not going to work. I mean, there's no guarantee. You keep trying, you do your best. Eventually, you usually get rewarded. So now we talked about trying to do the pileups. Important thing is having a good antenna. Unfortunately, a lot of hams have poor antennas, and it doesn't help that you look in the pages of QST and they advertise a lot of poor antennas. So you've heard of Maxwell's laws. Some of you have, you know, Maxwell wrote all the theory about antennas. Well, this guy called Stern, that's me, also has a couple of laws of antennas, and I don't have any mathematical equations here. So the first one is there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. What it means is if you got two antennas and they're properly designed, the bigger one will work better. That's just the way it works. Someone says, oh, I got this little antenna here. Mag loops, that's the one. A little mag loop. Instead of putting up a Yagi, they put up a mag loop on their front porch. They don't work so good. I mean, no work. You can put a signal out, but I mean, they don't work as well as a good dipole. And the dipole is a lot cheaper. These mag loops, if you want one that'll take power, runs close to $1,000. You know, it may look cool. I mean, you know, you could use it to hang the laundry, maybe, but not that good. So the other thing, who cares about SWR? Well, when I was a little Johnny novice, you know, many years ago, oh man, I used to freak out about SWR. Oh, I got to get my SWR is 1.3 to 1. I got to get it down lower. Nobody cares about it. It has nothing to do with signal strength. If you're worried about SWR, use a tuner. Back then, I used to think tuners were wasteful things. Now I use a tuner all the time. I get my SWR down to 1 to 1. I don't care about it. It's not the SWR that makes your signal good. It's the antenna. So if it didn't fall down in the last storm, it ain't high enough. I actually didn't invent that one. Someone else told me that. How high should I put my antennas? If it didn't fall down, put it up higher. And that's because a higher antenna produces a better takeoff angle, a lower angle, right? It goes out instead of up. Now, going up is good for short skip, but if you want to bang into the West Coast or Europe, you want the antenna high so you get a lower takeoff angle. And then, you know, like the people who sell homes will tell you, it's all about location, location, location. Being in the right spot has more gain than any antenna you could buy. You guys are in a good location. Florida's pretty good. I've done quite well with low power down there. The Caribbean's even better. I did a contest from the Caribbean. I said, I ain't going to operate from New England no more. Of course, I don't live there, so I have to operate from here. So know your antennas. So there's different antennas, and the first one is a hustler. Well, what's a hustler? So, you know, I can't hear you guys. You don't have the microphone. What's a hustler? Well, it's made by Neutronics. No. A hustler is someone who knows how to get money from others, right? That's a hustler. And by the way, I'm the proud owner of a hustler antenna. That's on my mobile. What's a buddy pole? Now I have to be careful. I was at a talk at Dayton and I was making fun of buddy poles. And he says, anyone here from buddy pole? And there's three guys in the front row like this, making really disgusted faces. I go, well, okay, I have a hustler. It works just as well. What's a buddy pole? A buddy pole is your best pal in SP land. SP land, Poland, buddy pole, right? To explain it for the non-DXers in the room. Hamstick. What does a hamstick do? Well, a hamstick keeps hams away from normal people. That's what a hamstick is. And a tripod, a friend of mine always was using a tripod, and I tell him, tripod is to hold up a camera, not to hold up an antenna. Antennas have to be in the air. So I threw this slide up. It's pretty busy, but it gives you an idea of what's going on here. So we're comparing to a base signal of 100 watts to a 25-foot high dipole, a really pedestrian station, right? And what some of the things you can do and what changes. So if you're running 100 watts, that's 0 dB. It's the same, right? If you get a small amp, 500 watt amp, that's 7 dB a gain. That'll give you about an S unit or so. If you go to a full power amplifier, 12 dB, there's 2 S units. 2 S units, pretty big. Well, S unit, that's nothing. Well, it's quite a bit if you're in the noise and they can't hear you, and then you come up 1 S unit and they can hear you. Big deal then, right? And sometimes conditions aren't that good. But now look what happens when you go down to 10 watts, for our QRP fans out there. You lose 10 dB. There's 2 S units right off the bat. That means if you are S1 with 100 watts, when you go to 10 watts, you ain't there. You're gonzo. And of course, with 1 watt, it's even worse. Then we look at the antenna. So again, the dipole at 25 feet, 0 dB. That's our baseline. If we put that dipole up 50 feet, you get about 3 dB a gain. And really, that's more gain from far away stations. Close-in stations, probably not much of anything. So you pick up a half S unit on that. But look at the Yagi. Yagi, you're going to pick up about an S unit and a half. But then we go to the whip, minus 7 dB. And I think I'm being optimistic there. I think some whips are even worse than that. So, with decibels, you add them together. So 10 watts to a whip versus 100 watts to a low dipole. If you add the numbers up, minus 10 plus a minus 7 is minus 17 dB. You're 3 S units down with your, let's say, your QRP thing with a little mobile whip. So if a 100 watt station is being received at S8, the 10 watt station with the whip is S5. Now, my noise level on my Elecraft K3 is S5. And that's in a park where there's no noise around me at all. That's just the band noise. You have to overcome that. If you're not S4 to S5, you ain't going to be making the trip. You're going to be in the noise. I'm going to have all to do to pull you out of the noise. So that's where this stuff is important. You want to be low power. Low power is great, but sometimes it just ain't the way. It ain't going to work. You need to run the high power. And I've done park activations of contests where the conditions were just awful, and we just had to run the power. Now, the other thing to consider is skip zone. 20 meters has a skip zone. It's about 600 miles. When you get on 20 meters, for the most part, this map is centered on Orlando, or the circle centered on Orlando. You ain't, for the most part, going to be working anyone in this circle, which is most of foreland. You're not going to hear them on 20 meters. You may get some short skip, but for the most part, you don't. You'll work the people further away, though. Now, think about how, but you're losing about 5 states here, right? Think about what I have to go through. I'm up here by these little pins here. 600 miles around me basically is all of 1, 2, and 3 land, all of it. And some of the biggest cities in the nation, like New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, Pittsburgh, and parts of Cleveland too. I can't work them. That's why in a stateside contest, the guys out west kind of clean our clock, because we have to work those guys on 40 meters. So what that means is if you live on 20 meters, if you're going to get on, let's say, do a park activation, and all you are on 20 meters, you're going to basically tell the people within 600 miles, go pound sand. You're not going to work me unless you got like a super station. So you want to be sure to use some of the lower bands, like 40 meters, so that you can pick those guys up. All right, let me just go back to this here. All right. PowerPoint went a little loopy on me here. And hopefully we will get that back. So station mentality. Can you guys see this okay? Looks like you
Yeah,
can,
you're
right?
fine.
Okay. Don't aim for mediocrity. You may just meet your goal. And I mean, when I teach a ham class, guys says, how many am I allowed to get wrong? And I, without hesitation, I always tell them 0. Oh, what do you mean there? I said, it says, to please me, you have to get 100. I says, don't be a PBSOT, pass by skin of teeth. Show that you've actually done something. Build the station right. Don't try and cut corners. Put up the best station you can physically put up. Don't engage in discrimination. Having a poor antenna and low power will guarantee that you'll discriminate against the other small station. Only the big guys will work you. So if you have a poor signal, it means less people worked and less fun. I like to get on. I want to work a lot of people. I'm going to go to the trouble turning the radio on, wasting a whole weekend doing a contest or going to a park. I want to talk to a lot of people. All right. So they say I should always show pictures in a presentation because people like little pretty pictures. So like the people say, oh, I can't put an antenna up. They don't allow it. This is the Federal Hall in New York City. I'm standing on Wall Street in New York. You might have heard of it, right? I know you guys have a lot of W-2s down there. And oh, you can't put up an antenna there. Watch me. So you see that little thing there behind the statue of George Washington? That's a 40-meter dipole. You can't see the wire, but you can see the mount. Here's a close-up of it. So what are you using for an antenna? I said, well, you have a dipole strapped to Washington's butt. And there's the dipole there. And this building here, that's the New York Stock Exchange, right? So did you get in trouble with the cops? This is some guy who said he was the block captain asked me, do you have permission? I go, yeah. I asked the guy who was the manager of the Federal Hall. He said, yeah, go ahead and knock yourself out. Just don't burn the building down. It's a federal monument. It's not a problem. And the operating position was pretty uncomfortable. We had to sit on the cement here. I don't suggest trying to do this for more than an hour. So how do we get antennas up into the trees? Well, we have a compressed air launcher. We actually have a few of these things. We load this thing up to 60 pounds per square inch, and we can get the tennis ball over any tree you want. I was thinking you guys don't have trees in Florida, but actually, yeah, you have those really big pine trees and in the center of the state and palm trees. So yeah, always make sure that where you want to operate, there's a big tree nearby. So this is what it looks like when I operate from my car. I have a van. I take the middle seats out, stick a table there. I got my K3. You can see there in the corner there, just barely, and an old SP200. I like to run power when I'm doing these things. And this is what the home station looks like. This is when we were doing W1AW Portable 1. So there's the pictures. Now let's ask the question. How do I become a better operator? And I'm going to kind of sashay through this real quick because we're running out of time. Contesting. By show of hands, because I can see your picture, how many people are contesters? I see no hands going up. One or two, right? How many people dislike contesters? All right, contesting. How many hands were there for dislike?
Two.
Two. All right. Well, yeah. Okay. It's a mixed bag. When I first got involved in a contest, it was back in 1973. A friend of mine, 71, a guy said, "Let's do a contest." Well, what do you want to do that for? That hello goodbye. It's nonsense, stupid, and it is like the most toxic drug since fentanyl. I've been doing the sweepstakes for the last 50 odd years doing that, right? But here are some of the good things about it. It's fun. It really is a lot of fun. Try it out. Try it out. You'll become hooked. It's a great way to meet many, many people. That's really the fun part about it. People know that they can find me in a contest. So people who I've known for years, whatever, they're out in other states, they tune around. They know where to look for me. Great way to work new countries, states, counties, whatever, because everybody is on. And it's really the best way to hone your skills. You want to become a good operator, you make several hundred contacts in a contest, you're going to get good at it. And contests are like a reunion. You run into the same people. In between the contest exchange, you spend like a minute. Hey, hello, how are you? How's the family? Blah, blah, blah. A minute each. You talk real fast. So what's a contest? You basically contact the most number of stations and the most number of defined areas and a time limit. You accurately exchange log information. Accurately is the important thing. They dock you if you copy somebody wrong. And each contest has a specific set of rules. And you can do it on HF or VHF, phone, or CW, or FT8, DX, or stateside. And they have them different hours. If you're really nuts, you do the 48-hour contest, or you can do the sprints, which are 4 hours. So many different ways to participate. The important thing, set a goal and stick to it. Goal setting is really important. And I'll tell you why here. Don't quit. I was doing a contest, and for years, the guy who was trying to beat me, KK1L, my arch nemesis, finally one year, he blew ahead of me overnight and had a significant score Sunday morning. And so I spent most of Sunday writing my concession speech, but I didn't quit though. I kept operating and kept operating. Don't you know, by the end of the contest, I passed him. And I did that a couple of times to the point where he started talking to himself, how I pulled off these ninth inning comebacks. It's attitude. The attitude is, well, I'm not doing so good now, but maybe something will change. You don't know. You keep at it. That's important, because if you're communicating in a public service event and things aren't going right, the equipment's breaking down, you can't talk to anyone, people are jamming or whatever, you have to have that attitude that, by God, I'm going to do this no matter what it takes. So pick the strategy consistent with your signal. If you're running a little station with a small dipole, you're not going to win the world, right? Pick something that you can win. So you can do one of two ways. You can call CQ, needs a good signal to get the best results, or you can search and pounce. You tune up and down the band looking for people. It's good when CQing doesn't work, but don't waste your time searching and pouncing. Searching and pouncing is a more advanced skill. It's harder to do than CQing, actually. So before the event, learn what the exchange is. Some of them are pretty easy. You just give your signal report and your state or your section, which is really tough in Florida because half the people in Florida don't know what section they're in, right? I have to ask them what county, and I have a lookup table. I know, you guys are in northern Florida, but you get guys around the Tampa area, they don't know what West Central Florida means, so it can get interesting. Always use your full call sign with phonetics. Again, we've said that before. Give your call sign phonetically. Use different phonetics if not getting through. If the guy's not hearing you, try something different. Sometimes that works. Don't send QRP or park to park or mobile or any. First of all, the first reason is the other guy doesn't really care. I care about the call sign and the exchange. That's what I got to log. The other stuff is inconsequential. So I don't care about your power level. I don't care about your antenna. I don't care about your marital status. I don't care about your sexual orientation. That's great. Send it to me in an email after the contest. Just stick to what is important. And the park to park guys in the activations, I'll get 5 guys yelling park to park. That's no good. Give me a call sign. If I hear you, I will work you definitely, but you got to do that. So give the exchange and nothing else. And if ask for a fill, give only what's asked. Don't give me the whole story over. Just give me what I need because I'm not hearing you that well. That's why I'm asking for a fill. Belt out your information like you really mean it. I mean, stand up on the desk and scream and yell and wave your arms. Yes, that works. So the last piece is training new ops. Really important thing here because we always should be training the new people. The three key things: listening, speaking, logging. Help the op to have good timing. Don't allow a pregnant pause. So in a contest, either you're transmitting or the guy who's talking to you is transmitting. The space in between that should be less than 2 seconds. And I'll tell you why. A lot of guys have these monitors, right? The band scopes. They see a frequency go clear. They're going to dump right on you, start calling CQ. So keep that frequency busy. So correct the bad habits for the new operator, not giving call signs or phonetics, not clearly indicating that you copied the QSL, and not projecting the voice. Really, really important. Give them little hints. Push them to be self-sufficient. So when we get people to operate, we don't have somebody logging for them. The operator contacts and logs. They do everything. Hard to do. You're doing like 3 things at once. You give them hints. You say, okay, call him now. Give him this call. You help them along. So you give them a little push, but not too much because they'll get frustrated. So look for consistency. And then eventually, what I do, I have people get on for during the Vermont QSO party. And then when they get a run going, I walk away. I go in the other room, take a nap. I don't sit there and sit over them. And you know what? They do really well. And limit a new operator's time to under 2 hours. Don't let them get completely burned out or have a heart attack and anything. That's not really a good thing. So the key skills: listening, speaking or keying, logging, setup and knowledge of the equipment, evaluation and improvement. We haven't mentioned that, but boy, after every field day, we have all sorts of meetings about how can we make this better. We tend to do really, really well in field day because we put a lot of effort into it. Something we haven't mentioned: safety. Safety is pretty darn important. If you fall off a tower, get electrocuted, that's not so good. You really want to avoid that kind of stuff. And you just practice, practice, and practice. So, guess we have maybe we got 1 minute for questions or whatever, or any comments.
We have questions? Right there.
What were you doing in Wall Street?
That was the National Parks on the Air. So we were activating the federal building National Monument. So remember we had National Parks on the Air in 2014? Mm-hmm. That's a park. And so we activated it. They had another one, the Gay Rights Park in Greenwich Village. I activated that. I activated the Alexander Hamilton's home up in Harlem, a few of them like that. And so that's what park activators do. It's not just a park with trees. These are urban parks. And so I had family down there. So when I was visiting, I said, let me try these really hard parks. These are challenging.
And the exchange, where do you get that information from?
Well, if it's a park activation, you give 5-9 and you give the park number. So for instance, there's a park like across the street from me that is US 5564, and you look that up on the Parks on the Air website. If it's an ARL contest, it's usually your signal report and your ARRL section. If it's a VHF contest, it would be your grid square. What you guys grid square? EL what? 95, 96? Probably not 96. 96 is down south. 98. Okay, yeah. So I mean that's you have to learn those things ahead of time.
Any other questions?
I'm curious. I'm also from Vermont. Are you St. Johnsbury, the SJ?
No. I'm in. We were Hammond, St. Johnsbury.
No, Barry.
Oh, okay. No, I live in Essex, which is just outside of Burlington. My original call sign was WB2JSJ, and so I just dropped one of the J's and dropped the B and kept it like that.
Anybody else?
No questions. So you guys are all experts now. I'm going to hear you guys in the next contest and running up big pileups, right?
There you go. As long as they turn the radio on first.
That's right. That's really important because a lot of guys, I haven't worked Vermont for 20 years, and then you find out that they haven't turned the radio on for 20 years either.
I have one question. I'm the microwave troublemaker. Have you ever worked a microwave contest like 1296 and up?
I work the VHF QSO party, and I go up to 3,400 megahertz, 3.4 gigs. And I got my VUCC on that band, and I'm actually going to this weekend I'm going to get my last card check for 2304 megahertz VUCC. And so I tell people I don't run QRP, I run amplifiers. So I say my motto is life is too short for QRP. But that being said, on 3,400 megahertz, my station only runs 50 milliwatts. That's all I got. So it is what it is. So, I mean, I do use QRP when I have to, when it's the only game in town.
Okay, just curious.
Anything else? Anybody else? Yeah. He's right there.
This is Bob. I'm also a VHF and a microwaver here, and my QRP on 3456 is 45 watts into a, let's say, 116 element looper.
Have you worked anyone in Vermont yet?
Not on 3456. I have done it on 2 meters though.
Yeah, I mean, I work a lot of you guys on 6 meters. Not this last contest. This last contest was a real zero for openings, but generally in the June contest, I'm working a lot of echo lemurs, so I know it works.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Thank you for spending the evening with us, and we hope to see you sometime at Hamcation.
Yes, I'm gonna I'm gonna try and do it. The last time I tried to go to Hamcation, it was with Frontier Airlines, and they saw 2 snowdrops fall. This guy said, "Hell no, we ain't going to Vermont," and that was that. I had no plane fare, nothing, and that was like about 5 years ago. So maybe one of these days we'd like to do it. Thank you, everyone.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we're gonna get things wrapped up for the evening. As just a reminder that we will be here again next month on November the 6th, where our speaker is going to be John Mead, Whiskey 2 X-Ray Sierra, and talking about QRP Low Power Fun. So with that, we're going to do our drawings so we can all head for home. There's a couple different options for you guys tonight. There is a couple coax jumpers, some ground braiding, bag of PL 259s, and some Hamcation tickets. I'm being spotlighted. All right. As always, you get to choose. First ticket, 7737. 7737. Come on up. Next ticket, 7748. Thank you, sir. Your choice. That is a 7-foot one, I think it was. Okay. The tags here. This one is a 18-foot jumper. Excellent. Next one, 7743. Come on up. You got a grounding braid and coax jumper and Hamcation tickets. 7760. Next one. 18-foot jumper or hamcation tickets. Remember, folks, even if you volunteer, these are extra drawing tickets for you. 7730. 7730. Going once, going twice. Not sold. Hey, George, tipping the housekeeping class. 7760, excuse me, 7761. Come on up. Hamcation tickets. All right, everybody. Appreciate it very much. Be safe. Let's hope that we don't have any more of those tropical disturbance coming our way. And remember, as he said, if your antenna is still standing after a storm, it's not high enough.